Hello guys, this is Paul McWhorter with TopTechBoy.com, and we're here today with episode number 6 in our incredible new tutorial series where you're going to learn artificial intelligence or you're going to die trying. What I'm going to need you to do is pour yourself a nice, enormous mug of iced coffee. That would be straight up black coffee poured over ice. No sugar, no sweeteners, none needed. And as you're getting out your coffee, as always, I want to give a shout out to you guys who are helping me out over at Patreon. It is your support and your encouragement that keeps this great content coming. You guys that are not helping out yet, look down in the description. There is a link over to my Patreon account. Think about hopping on over there and hooking a brother up. But enough of this shameless self-promotion. Let's jump in and let's talk about what you are going to learn today. And what you're going to learn today is you're going to learn how to squeeze a little bit better performance, a little bit more performance out of your Logitech webcam. Now, in the setup for this class, in the early lessons, I tried to emphasize the importance that we're operating on the same webcam and we're operating on the same versions of OpenCV and the same versions of Python. That way, when I show you something, if you do what I do, you'll get the same result that I get. If you're on some random camera, on some random version of Python, on some random version of OpenCV, I don't know whether it'll work because things are changing so quickly. That's why I want us in this class to try to stay on a similar hardware and software platform. If you don't have the Logitech webcam, look down in the description. There's a link where you can get the exact same camera that I have. But enough of this introductory banter and chit chat. Let's jump in and let's get ready to learn how to get more performance out of your webcam. In order to do that, I will switch over to my screen and I will move my big noggin out of the way. And then what I am going to need you to do is I'm going to need you to fire off the most excellent Visual Studio Code. And what we're going to do is we are going to come over and open up our file browser. And then you can see that we are in our working folder Python. And I am going to want to create a new program. And that new program, I will come here. I will click below the last program and then I will click new. And we are going to create OpenCV -3.py, and the .py is kind of important, and boom, we have a fresh new Python program just waiting to be written. Okay, now what I want us to do is I want us to sort of start with that fundamental code that launches the webcam, because there's no reason for us to rewrite that code every time. You guys probably have it stored over here already. If you don't, what you can do is you can come over to the most excellent www.toptechboy.com, and in this happy little search box, what I want you to search on is I want you to search on the term launch a Windows web camera, and then you should come to this little lesson here, and you can come down here and I have the most excellent 10 lines of code. Click on the double windows, right mouse click and copy. Now you've got those 10 lines of code and you don't need to rewrite those every time. Come over here, come to our most excellent OpenCV-3 program, Control V to paste that in there. And now I am going to move the file navigator out of the file browser out of your way. Now, just for good measure, because you might have been working on my also on my Visual Python, my 3D graphics class, let's make sure that we are on the right interpreter. So I will put Control-Shift-P. Control-Shift-P, and then we want to go to Python, select interpreter. So if it doesn't pop up for you, Python space select interpreter, and then it should pop up for you if it didn't already. And we will wait a second for it to give us our choices. And it looks like that mine was on 3.9.6, and what I want is I want Python 3.6.6 in the virtual environment. You guys, if you're drive-by shooters and have just dropped into this lesson, you need to go back and look at some of the earlier videos where I show you how to set this up, and then you can be in the same environment that I am in. But for you guys that are in the class, it will make perfect sense what I just said. I'm going to have a sip of coffee. Okay, so now what I want to do is just make sure all this copying and pasting nonsense didn't break something. So I will come up here and I will click Run. And it seems like nothing happened. Oh, there it goes. Okay, and it looks like it's launched. We said print the CV2 version 4.5.3. Okay, and now we have to wait a freakishly long time. I mean, this is like one of the fastest computers that you can buy right now, and it took like what, 10-15 seconds to launch the webcam. And I don't know if you guys are struggling with that too, but it's like very, very slow to launch. And if we're trying to debug our code, that really slows us down. I really shouldn't touch my eye with the virus going around, you know. Shouldn't touch your eye, shouldn't touch your face. Okay, but I digress. Okay, so if we look at this, what three things do we really not like about what we are doing here? What three things do we not like? All right, the first thing that we don't like is we don't like that it takes 10 to 20 seconds to launch the webcam. Right, and it seems to me it might just be my crazy old imagination, maybe my paranoia showing through. But it seems like every time I run this, it's getting longer and longer and longer. And as I'm making my class, the video, as we go on and on and on, it seems like every time it's taking longer to launch that webcam. So slow launch we don't like. The other thing that we don't like is, do you see how I'm not getting perfectly smooth motion? And it seems like the more motion that I try to do, the jumpier it gets, that it's struggling to do the compression. That's the second thing we don't like. And the third thing we don't like is it's coming up in kind of like a random size. This to me looks like about 640 to 480 that is coming up in. What if I wanted to do a different size? Now, I realized on that last week's homework, some of you guys struggled because your camera was coming up big and you couldn't get 4 windows on your screen. And so you were struggling because your video window was too big to stack 4 of them together. Those are the 3 things that we're not happy about. Those are the 3 things that we're going to fix today. Okay, we're going to fix those 3 things today. So I'm going to come here. I am going to quit out of this program. We're going to keep these 10 lines, and we are going to make them better. And let's see. Guys, I'm going to scoot out of your way. The first time you run the interpreter in with a virtual environment interpreter selected, it will put your shell down here in the bottom. It will put it in. It will put it in that virtual environment. And I don't like to do it that way. So I'm going to deactivate the virtual environment in the PowerShell. Now up at the top, Python is still running. Python is still running in that virtual environment. I just don't like my PowerShell in it. Okay. Don't know why, I just don't, so I deactivate it. And I don't like myself postage stamp size. I don't like myself being a munchkin, so I will come back to the medium size. And now what we want to do is we want to see how we can improve the video capture. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start sending it commands where we tell it what size we want. We want to be the boss. We want to be in charge, not the camera in charge giving us some random size. So we're just going to say I want a width of, what is a good width? 1280, and a height of 720 pixels. All right. Don't do random widths and heights. You need to do a standard one. What are standard ones? Well, standard ones would be like if you wanted a big picture, you would do 1920 by 1080. A nice sort of large but not freakishly large is what we're doing here, 1280 by 720. You could do, if you wanted a smaller one, 640 by 360. And you see, you want to kind of, if you're just winging it, you want to kind of go in factors of 2. And if you go in factors of 2, you'll probably land on a good one. Also, 320 by 180 will work. 160 by 90 would work. Also, there's a different ratio that you could use, 640 by 480, and then you could double that one or you could half it, okay? And so that gives you a lot of different choices. But pick one that is sort of a standard, because you can get some unexpected results if you just came in and said, like, 600 by 400 or just made something random up. You could get some unexpected results. All right. Now, so we're going to use this later. This is just setting variables. This isn't setting the width and height. This is just setting the variables up. All right. Now what I want to do is I want to come on my video capture. And this is the thing. When we just say video capture 1, and yours might be 0, okay, your webcam might be on 0, my webcam is on 1. If we just go out and tell it to look for that port, to look for that webcam, we have no idea what it is using as parameters. We have no idea for what type of default parameters OpenCV and Python are using. So we want to start setting those parameters, because if we set them, then the video will give us the characteristics that we want. So here's a little helpful one, and that is going to be cv2.cap. And that's like for capture, and then D show. And this is saying that we are capturing the frame, and what we want to do with it is we're just going to do a direct show. And so this is kind of like telling Windows we're capturing the frame in order to show it. And when we do that, what that's going to do is that's going to let us tell it that, so it doesn't have to sit there for 5 minutes and figure it out. One of the keys to make this thing launch faster. All right, now the other thing that we want to do, what was the other thing that we didn't like? We didn't like that it was launching slow, and we didn't like that it was giving us a random image size. So we want to set that image. So what we're going to do is cam.set. Now why cam? Because that's what we named our camera object. Because we named it cam, we are going to then do a cam.set. Set is the command. And what do we want to set? Well, we want to set cv2.cap for capture, and then underscore prop for property. Okay, cap prop, and then underscore frame. Okay, and then underscore width. And you can see now that it's kind of guessed it, right? So I'm just going to select that. So I'm going to do a cam set cv2.cap prop frame width, and then a comma, and then what do I want to set it to? Width. All right. Now we're going to use, I'm not going to copy and paste that. I'm going to do now a cam.set, and I'm going to do a cv2.cap prop for property underscore. Any guesses what we're going to do? Class. Any guesses? You guessed it. Height. Have you noticed how you say height like it's a TH even though it's height? And you would be surprised how many errors I've seen that have just had people banging their heads against the desk trying to find it because they spell height like TH, like you say it. All right, but I digress. And then that is going to be height, right? So we're going to set, so now we're sending commands to the camera to set the width and set the height that we want. And then we define those up here. All right, now this one is another one that we have no idea what frame rate OpenCV is using. So we want to explicitly set that. And so we are going to do a cv2.cap prop frame, and then underscore, and the magic parameter is FPS for frames per second. And then I'm going to go ahead and set that for 30. So 30 frames per second. Okay, guys, these 4 commands are, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 things that we've done so far, plus the next one will fix all 3 of the problems that we don't like. You can't just do one of them. They sort of work together. You got to configure your camera. And so from now on, I think we'll want to use this method where we're always sort of setting our parameters just as a matter of good principle. Now we're going to do a cam.set. All right. One of the magic things with video is the video is encoded. It's sort of like a compression and a wrapper that turns still frames into a smooth running video, and some of the stuff that it tries to do is compression so that you don't put too much demand on your CPU or your GPU depending on where you're running it. And so this is going to specify the codec. It's going to specify the format of how to go about doing that frame capture and which codec to use. And so how are we going to do that on cam.set? We're going to go cv2.cap prop. And I know this is strange. Don't panic. It's 4cc. And that's just the command that's going to let us set up the codec. And now we put a comma, and now we've got to tell it which one, and that's going to be cv2.video, and then writer. Pay attention to my capitalization. The V is uppercase and the W is uppercase. Video writer, okay, video writer, and now underscore 4cc, okay, video writer underscore 4cc, and now we have to tell it which one. So we put an open bracket. I'm going to get out of your way before you can't see this. Okay, so now we're going to tell it what 4cc video writer to use, and what we are going to want, is going to be a star, and then an open quote, and MJPG. So it's like a moving JPEG, an MJPG. Okay, so look at that. You got to put the star because that then is formatting the MJPG in the way that the cv2.videowriter operation wants. And so basically, with this command, you are setting the codec, you are setting the format, you're setting the wrap, you're setting everything to one that will run smoothly on Windows, okay? And this, and then setting the width and height, and then telling Windows that you want to direct show, this should make things run, fire up quickly, the exact size we want, and then also have it run a lot smoother. So let's see if in fact this thing is going to run. Better take a sip of coffee before we fire this one off. Okay, so I will come over here and I will hit the run button. Whoo, CV2. What is this nonsense? CV2 has no... How could I have possibly made a mistake? So let me look at this error bigger and see where it doesn't like it. In line 8, cap prop. Ah, I see. It was my mistake. It was not frame, it's just cap prop FPS. I was extrapolating from the earlier command, so it's just cap prop frames per second. Okay, you guys can see that, right? Little typo on my part. Let's give it another try. Hold your breath. Boom! Look at that. Okay, what do you notice? It launched in just a few seconds. Okay, it launched in just a few seconds. What else do you notice? It's the exact size we asked for. Boom. All right. And then what else do you notice? You notice that it's a lot smoother. Okay, it is a whole lot smoother. Now I'm going to quit out of that because that is a little bit bigger than anybody wants to see me. And so let's come up and let's try a smaller one. So let's come over here and let's go 640 by 360. Okay, and I know when you say 640, you think 640 by 480, but that's that old ugly sort of squarish, size, to where the 640 by 360 is more like the, what do they call it, 16 by 9 or something like that. I don't know, but it's more like the shorter, wider that we have grown accustomed to. So let's try running this again. Boom. Who's your huckleberry? I'm your huckleberry. Look at that. Now we can get the size that we want. Look at that. All right. I'm going to cue out of that. And then let's just for fun come over here and say 320 by 360 divided by 2 is 180. I'm always a little intimidated to do math, head math live. I teach, there you go. Hello. Okay, I teach math, or I'm a long-term math teacher, but still I don't do head math. I do algebra, I do calculus. I can solve complicated problems, but I've never put into my mind to try to do head math. Okay, so I always have to stop and think if I gotta do something like that. Okay, look at that. All right, do you guys see how much smoother this was than it was before? And so now we can control where the window is. We can control how big the window is. We can make it launch quickly, and then we can make it run smoothly. So I would say that this has been a pretty productive lesson. But as always, I'm going to need you to do a homework. And the first is to show me that you've actually watched the whole video. And if you want me to heart your comment, put a comment down below, and I need you to give me the secret word for today. And the secret word for today is, wait for it, termite mound. Okay, termite mound. Why do I show you this? This is like, oh, it's probably a couple of 100 meters, 300-400 meters from my house. And when I tell people how to get to where I live, it's kind of complicated. The instructions are kind of complicated because there's not street names here, and there's not intersection names, and it's just kind of like one big blur. And so part of the instructions that I have to give people if they're going to come and see me is turn left at the huge termite mound. Do you see that little kid? This termite mound is like 12 feet high. Okay, so the secret word for today is enormous termite mound, or huge termite mound. All right, and then also I need to give you a homework assignment, and that homework assignment is, now that you can control the position of the window, the size of the window, and whether the image is black and white or color, what I want you to do is, just for your screen and your computer, just see how many of these little windows you can stack up. Like if you keep making them smaller and smaller, how many can you put on your screen but yet still have them where they're running? So it would probably be at some point that you're trying to show so many different videos that the thing isn't giving you acceptable performance. But just sort of like stack them together, make them smaller and smaller, and then give me like homework solution. And what you need to do is, if you actually do this, you need to say, I am legend. Okay. And then after that, how many rows and how many columns. So like that homework from lesson 5, what we did, 2 rows and 2 columns for 4 images. But now that you can make your window smaller, you could do more, but at some point you're going to have so many that it's not going to look very good. So one thing is, leave a comment down below, giant termite mound, and then secondly, do the homework and see how many rows and columns you can get. Maybe you would say 3 by 3, or maybe it would be 4 rows and 6 columns or something like that. But always, so like if you say 4 by 6, understand that it's always row by column, row cross column. So you always list the rows first and then the columns. And so your answer might be, I am legend 3x4, and then giant termite mound. And that way we're going to kind of confuse people who just read the comments who haven't actually watched the video all the way through. Okay, guys, I hope you are having as much fun taking these lessons as I'm having making them. If you like the video, be sure to give me a thumbs up and leave a comment down below. When you leave a comment in the comment section, it kind of gives me YouTube juice and the old YouTube algorithms and kind of helps more people find my videos. Like and share this. If you have not already, subscribe to the channel. When you do, make sure that you ring that bell, and then you'll get notifications when my future lessons are dropped. And so appreciate all that. Really appreciate you guys. I'm having a lot of fun with this. I really enjoy the premieres. If you guys are not tuning in for the premieres, make sure and do that. We have a lot of fun with that. I'm going to try to start doing the live streams again. Okay, I've been having little connectivity issues with my internet, but I will promise you I'll try very soon to start doing the live streams again. All right, guys, this is Paul McWhorter from TopTechBoy.com. I will talk to you guys later.